We're spending 22 minutes today with actor and director Katie Holmes. What a pleasure to have you here. So great to meet you.
Thank you.
And your directorial debut, a movie called All We Had, a Tribeca selection. That's got to be a big deal.
I'm very proud. I'm very excited that we're putting this movie out. Gravitas is distributing us, and we did go to the Tribeca Film Festival, and we were, bought by Gravitas there, and it's very exciting.
Let's talk about the story. It seems to me a story that is just starting to be told now, like a story from the economic crash of 2008. This was based on a book, right? Tell us the basic premise and how you found the book.
Okay, well, I was looking for material to direct, and I went to my literary department at my agency, and I asked for material, and this was one of many books that I read, and this novel is by Annie Weatherwax, and it centers on Rita and Ruthie, a mother and daughter, but they have a very non-traditional mother-daughter relationship. At times, it feels like Thelma and Louise, and they're, also at times it's like they're sisters, and sometimes, Ruthie is the mom and Rita's the daughter, and vice versa. And there's a line in the book, and it's also in the movie, where Ruthie says, superheroes drive broken-down cars, and they take their kids with them wherever they go. And I felt like that really just said so much to me about the themes of this book and how relatable they were to me, and I thought they were relatable and timely to so many people right now, and reminiscent of values that I grew up with in Toledo, Ohio. And I felt like all of the characters in the book were authentic. And went on a journey, and there was a lot of healing that happened. So.
And your character, Rita, I'm sitting here with you today, and you look like Katie Holmes again. And as Rita, you barely had any makeup, with the exception of the blue eyeliner. Yeah. That got to work out in the movie. What was it like playing that character? Was it hard to play that character of Rita?
It was very challenging. Every character is challenging. But I really wanted to play Rita for reasons that involved, she's the type of person that is so easily judged by society. She has made a lot of mistakes. She got pregnant young. She grew up in foster care. She looks like a mess, but she is so anchored by her love for her daughter, and that really is her compass in life, and she always is trying to make life better for her daughter. And I thought, well, that seems like most mothers that I know, no matter where they're from or what they have, they love their kids, and fathers too. And so it just felt like a universal theme.
It is, and it's a beautiful rendering in particular, all the other things you mentioned as well, but of the mother-daughter relationship. There's scenes where they are so physically close. And and watching it as a mother, I thought, yeah, that is what it's like.
Right.
The
stinky feet.
yeah, sometimes. Yeah. And the actress who plays Ruthie is wonderful. Now, was she cast because you could be sisters or mother-daughter, a very young mother-daughter? Was she cast because there was a feeling that there was a resemblance to you, or was that just coincidental?
That was coincidental because we really we looked at all different types of people. Race didn't matter. I was looking to just, the most talented, and also an actor with innocence. The sense, because it was important to me that Ruthie, because their circumstances were so, at times, so tough, I wanted her to be so innocent, so we just fell in love with her and just worried about her. And you didn't want to feel like Ruthie was going down the wrong path yet, because you wanted to have hope. So it was important to me to have this actor that just had so much going on behind the eyes, and that was Stefania.
Did you guys have a lot of time to prepare together before you actually shot the scenes? Did you have time to bond, in a sense?
Well, we didn't have that much time. We cast her about a week and a half before we started shooting. And yet I knew how, naturally gifted she was, but I wanted to make sure behaviorally we pulled off mother and daughter, and especially a mother and daughter that were all each other had. And so I worked with the different departments. My cinematographer and I spoke at length about how we were shooting the both of us in the frame, how to get angles so we did look alike, where we highlighted certain similar features, wardrobe, how that was all connected and what would make sense. And then Stefania and I spent a lot of time together, and we rehearsed, and I think we both just started mimicking each other, and we did a lot of improvising, because the most important thing to me was making sure that we really felt like mother and daughter. I didn't care about the lines.
Right. I want to talk a lot more about All We Had. Just want to ask you about another role that you've currently been portraying, Jacqueline Onassis, and now the Reels series is coming into the next portion of the miniseries after Camelot.
After Camelot, and that will come out in April, and it's a 4-episode miniseries, and it takes place after Bobby is assassinated up until Jackie dies, and I directed one of those episodes.
You did.
And it was so different from All We Had. Obviously, it was much more glamorous, and
right.
But it was interesting to get inspired by this whole other world and have to turn your head around about creating that world and how you're going to shoot that. And it was great. And we had the same crew that we had the last time, and it was very exciting.
How hard is it to play somebody like Jacqueline Onassis, somebody who's so known to the public, and not veer into any sort of caricature almost?
Well, it takes a lot of time to prepare, and the way in which I prepare, we are very specific. I work with someone, and it's just being very specific about the moments and the different aspects of Jackie. I find the most challenging part her voice and accent. She spoke so softly, but you don't really know what happened, behind the scenes. So there's a freedom in that, but there's also, it's just, you're kind of a little bit of a gray area.
I would think it would be a real challenge. And then the movie, Jackie comes out with Natalie Portman. Now, does your crew say, why does she have to do it? Or is it just a good thing for people who are, particularly interested in that time period of history? Yeah,
I think it's a really good thing. And first of all, I can't wait to see it. I know their movie centers around the death of JFK and Jackie's experience within that moment in time. And I love Natalie. I'm such a fan of hers. So I'm really happy for them. And I think it's exciting that, in this year we both get to play this icon, and I'm happy for them.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you directed an episode, and what made you want to direct a movie? When you were on some of your movie sets as an actress, were you sitting there thinking, I'd like to do that? To me, I always think, I think I'd rather be the movie star. But movie stars seem to want to be directors. Why?
Well, I think that for me, I love reading I love learning about new authors and reading. I read a lot of different books. And I think I just got to the point where I wanted to take another step in having more creative control. And I also have met so many really talented people, like my cinematographer and my production designer and my wardrobe designer. We've worked together so many times, and it's really fun to create that that whole environment where you feel comfortable with everybody and you love everybody, and you know, I think in our business we're always like meeting new people and traveling here and traveling there, which is exciting, but sometimes it's nice to find your group and say, like, we're going to keep making movies together.
Your squad.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And I think just being able to have a vision and see it through and run a set the way that I want it to run. I mean, I feel so lucky that I've worked with, my first job was with Ang Lee, and then it was Curtis Hanson and Peter Hedges, Chris Nolan, and Simon McBurney for All My Sons on Broadway. And I've had these incredibly enriching experiences as an actor where I've been given so much by these directors that have helped me pull a performance out of myself. And I really wanted to do that for other actors, because I love acting, I love the process, I love finding things together, experimenting, and so it was really fun to be able to create that. And Stefania is so young, and this was, I think, her, I mean, she's been acting a while, but she's still so young, and Eve, this was her second job, so it was really fun to be around, you know, that new talent.
Now, Eve portrays the transgender niece of the owner of the diner, who's played by the great Richard Kind.
Yes.
And yeah, she's a scene stealer. Easy for me to say. She certainly is. Yeah.
She is, and we, when she came in and auditioned for the role, she was so natural, but also just a really nice person. And I knew that Pam was this person that people were naturally drawn to, and that's something that you can't act. You either, people are drawn to you or they're not. And Eve just naturally had that, and she's got a really good heart, and she's really interesting and cool, and I was like, she is Pam. You know, she has so many of these special qualities, and she was fantastic. And you know, Pam or Eve and Stefania, they had some scenes where I just said, okay, just talk, just talk like you would talk, and they came up with some really wonderful stuff.
To improvise like that, amazing, as opposed to a very set script, like in a television series. Got to ask you about Dawson's Creek. No reunion.
I know, I always get asked about a reunion, and it's so flattering.
You have to ask.
It's so flattering. I mean, that show was incredible for all of us, and we shot that for 6 years. Right. And
in North Carolina, was it?
North Carolina.
Were you stationed there the whole time? Wow.
Yeah.
Was that limiting then, not to be able to, at that time, really do other movie projects, or were you able to?
No, we all were and are still very ambitious, and we were able to, you know, work at the same time. Sometimes I know, like do a movie and the show at the same time, and then we were all on the weekends coming to New York or LA auditioning. So it was, I mean, it was such a gift, and it gave us all so many opportunities.
Yeah, I think people still, I mean, you've done so much since then, but people are still curious. So no reunion, no, or reboot. Reboot is really the thing everybody's doing now,
yeah,
right?
I guess so, right, the reboot.
Any plans along those lines or no?
You know, I haven't heard anything, and I think that we all loved working on it and working together, and it was, you know, Kevin Williamson is such a gifted writer, and he created these characters that, you know, we were teenagers that spoke like we were 40 years old. So I don't know how that, would we now talk like teenagers? I'm not sure. But it was a very special time, and gave a voice to teenagers.
Yeah. You mentioned you grew up in Toledo, Ohio. Is it true that your audition for Dawson's Creek was actually done, I don't know if this is a Wikipedia myth or something apocryphal, that you
I did it with my mom in her basement, yes.
Because you didn't want to not appear in a high school production that you were committed to?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So, no, well, I auditioned, I was doing a lot of auditions on tape like most all of us actors do. And because I was doing my musical my senior year of high school, and they called me to test for the project. And you know, I was doing a lot of auditions, so it wasn't like the only one, and you don't know when you test if you're going to actually get the role, you know?
Right.
So I said, well, I can't really, well, actually, my dad said, to be fair, he said, now, are you going to let your friends down, or are you going to take a chance? And I was like,
Oh.
you're right. I can't let my friends, you know, we've been working for 3
But
months.
Dad, it's
No,
a
but he
TV show.
He was right, and it all worked out, and they waited, and you know, it was a good lesson.
Yeah.
It was a good lesson.
Lola, Damn Yankees?
Lola.
That's a pretty choice role, I can see.
I worked very hard for Lola.
Back to your portrayal of Rita, and one of the, among the many other great scenes in the movie is your interaction with Luke Wilson, who, I don't want to say he plays against type, but we have seen him in some sort of more frolicking type of movies. And the scenes between the two of you are really sweet. Did you have a hand in casting? You talked about some of the other actors in the ensemble. Did you read with him and say, oh, you know, this is it. This is the guy for the role. I know the chemistry is going to be right.
Well, you know, I cast the whole movie. I didn't read with Luke because he's Luke Wilson, so it was sort of.
He doesn't have to audition.
No, it's please do this movie that, you know, is a small little movie, and I've never directed before, but I really think I know what I'm doing. Right. And he's so kind, and he's obviously so funny and so talented. And what I loved about his performance in this is that he is unexpected, and he has that dry sense of humor that I felt worked so great for Lee, who, you know, you learn lost his wife and is really struggling and going through so much himself, but you wouldn't necessarily think that right away. And you know, usually sad stories are sadder when somebody makes them funny, and you know, Luke did that with this character, so it was great. Yeah. He's so talented. I felt so lucky to have all of this talent in this film. I mean, Mark Consuelos was fantastic, Richard Kind, Judy Greer.
Right, right. And Mark playing kind of a not very nice guy.
I know. Can you believe it?
Yeah, and you know, you see him with Kelly, and oh, Mark. And then in this movie, it's like, oh.
I know, he's a great...
rooting against him.
He's a great actor, but he also, what I really liked about his performance is he is playing a real jerk, but you still kind of like him, you know, and it's complicated, and I think that takes that's a sophisticated piece of work by him, and he did a great job.
Right. Now, I've read that you have optioned another book, and I have to peek in my notes to remember the name of it.
It's called Rare Objects.
Kathleen Tesoro?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that's a historical fiction novel, correct? Or it's set in a very certain
It's set in the
period.
30s.
Yeah.
Yes, and
What
it's about
drew you to
women.
that?
It's two strong female characters, and they have this special bond, and they've gone through something together, and they're both figuring out what their future is going to be. It's a coming of age at a time when women didn't have as much freedom as they do now, and how does that work? How does that affect their growth and their friendship?
Interesting. And so what happens after you option it? Then do you find a screenplay writer to adapt it, or do you do that yourself, or do you?
Well, I've been adapting it myself, and once you get it to the draft that you're happy with, then you start to go try to raise money and start to assemble the crew and cast and do it all over again.
And given the fact that all we had was a Tribeca selection and has, you know, a wonderful cast, does that help you get the next project green-lighted and financed?
I sure hope so.
We'll
But,
see.
I mean, the thing about our business, there's just no guarantees. So you
that's
just,
right.
everything you just have to work really, really hard.
Right. And in the meantime, you're acting as well. Logan Lucky. I always want to call it Lucky Logan, but now another tremendous cast, right?
Yes.
Daniel Craig and
Channing Tatum.
from Girls, Adam Driver.
Yes.
Yes.
And Steven Soderbergh directed it, which was so exciting. And he's such a master, and it was a great time.
Yeah.
And I played Channing's ex-wife and the mother of a 9-year-old beauty pageant queen.
Oh my! Are you a pageant mom in the movie?
I'm a pageant mom.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you awful? It sounds like a great.
No. Just proud.
Just proud. Okay. And the premise: two brothers trying to pull off a heist during NASCAR.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be. Was it hilarious? Oh, is it wrapped already?
It's wrapped.
And ready
yeah,
for yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be fantastic.
Was it a lot of fun?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Good. All right.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. Okay. So last question for you then. A great body of acting work now. A movie under your belt. Another one possibly coming. What do you prefer? Is it or is the jury still out? Are we going to see more of Katie Holmes, the director, or more of Katie Holmes, the actor?
I want to do both, and I feel really lucky to be in this business and to have had the opportunities that I have been able to have. I think as a woman in Hollywood, I want to continue to fight to direct films, to act in films, to give power to other women, to produce for other women, and just keep going. I think that it's a very exciting time. It's exciting to make these independent movies that are being able to be seen, and absolutely I want to do more of it.
Well, I enjoyed watching it and enjoyed talking to you. Katie Holmes, thank you so much for coming in.
you.
Appreciate it.